Hello, YouTube. This is just going to be hopefully a quick guide on how to progress your waiver tree and how I've done it so far. As you'll see, I'm still on 7. It's just I've been focusing on not grinding out the last of the weaver points because, in my opinion, the last 6 points or whatever aren't that super important compared to being able to farm out all the rest of my factions like the Forgotten Knight, Circle of Fortune, and be trying to farm my endgame gear so I can start getting some Uber Aberoth kills in. But I'll mention on the strat to sort of go from like these last levels. That there's sort of like a strat that people have been doing. But to start off with, the Weaver tree, you'll be introduced to the Weaver faction as soon as you run through a tomb or a cemetery, and tombs can just show up in your maps. And at the end of a tomb, there will be a chest that will duplicate the echo reward that you would got from completing the echo, and then you can leave the tomb, go finish the echo, and get your other echo reward. So it's great to do a tomb if you're very interested in the echo reward, if it's like something you're looking for as far as like a space, some sort of exalted thing you're looking for, blah blah blah. If you don't really care about the echo reward, so for example, this league idols are pretty bad at echo rewards because most of the good idols you're gonna only find in the within the Weaver, either a cemetery or a tomb, because they have a chance of rolling the really strong Weaver mods. So for example, let's see, where's a good one? So I was a mana stacking character. This is 8 mana plus 7 mana, so that's 15 mana on one idol. This is a Void Pen and help me cap my poison res. Melee damage, Void Pen, Void damage, mana, health. So this stuff's not going to drop. And then your actual idols, you're going to want to have to reroll through the systems at the end of a tomb. At the end of a tomb, you'll have one chance to reroll something, a class idol, and at the end of cemetery, you'll have 2 chances. But that's just essentially a brief overview of that. So how do you get points in this? So there's 2 ways to get points. One is to progress your Weaver faction tree. That'll give you 1 points all the way up to rank 8, and then 9 gives you 2, and then 10 gives you 3. The other one is to do completion of your Weaver echoes. Any of the woven echoes, when you complete them for the first time, will give you 1 Weaver tree point, except for some of the later ones in higher corruption. For example, the Majasa boss fight gives you 2, the 10 Harbingers in a row gives you 2, etc. And you are capped at, I believe, 60 points, or 50 points, yeah. Because I'm only missing the additional 6 from levels 8, 9, and 10. But in order to acquire these echoes, the fastest way to get them, and by far the most reliable, is you want to go immediately up here. Tombs are already super common, so this point's kind of whatever. But you want to get to this, Necropolis of the Weaver. Get all 3 points here. So rare enemies in your tombs and cemeteries have a chance to drop woven echoes, right? So it's a small chance, right? 9% or 3 points. But essentially every other enemy in a tomb or a cemetery is going to be rare. And not only are they dropping woven echoes, they're also dropping the memory hammer that you need to progress things with. So essentially what you want to do when you're in a tomb or a cemetery is you want to run through. Anytime you see a rare, stop, kill the rare. If it drops, memory amber, make sure you pick it up and then keep going. Anytime you see the little egg sacs, you just want to kill them, follow them, and kill whatever mob they attach to. That mob will drop memory amber. And that's how you progress those. In my personal experience, especially early on, if you aren't interested in doubling your reward for that echo, I wouldn't recommend running the tomb. If you see it, I would just finish your normal echo and then leave. The only exceptions to that are if your echo objective is like open shrines for an ambush, or open caches for an ambush, or kill enemies until you get an ambush. Then you can actually complete those within the tomb, in which case you basically want to beeline for the tomb and then go through the tomb. Generally, you'll complete the objective halfway, finish the tomb, and then leave. But so that's how that works. These are your first 4 points, I think non-negotiable. This is your fastest way to get additional echoes. And additionally, these echoes can drop from any pool. They aren't limited to like what you can buy or whatever. They'll drop from any of these pools. The only exceptions are the Threshold to Eternity and where is it? The Conflux of Oblivion. That's because the Conflux of Oblivion you can only get by specking into this node over here, and it'll drop when you either kill a shade or complete a tome. And then the Uber Aberoth fight that doesn't give you a point can only drop from the shade tome, to my understanding. So these are your first 4 points. Okay, great. So now we're dropping Woven Echoes. Every time we're going to find a cemetery, we're going to line them up. We're going to do all the ones we haven't on. We're going to start rolling in points. So what's your next move? There's 2 options. If you're not comfortable with the amount of echoes you're getting, which you should be, but for some reason, you can't come over here, get some more Woven Echo reward points right away. The problem is this is very inefficient right now because it's still competing with everything else on the tree in order when you roll your echoes. What I prefer to do is I want to come over here. These are mostly just travel nodes. This is more champs exalted, lost caches can now exalted, tones of insight. The goal here is we're going to come over here, block all these off, and then go and grab the Woven Echoes. And when you do that, it'll be every essentially 1 in 3 echo on your web will be a Woven Echo web, and this will be able to complete your Woven Echo collection super fast. Additionally, you can, before completing that, I would, regardless of if you're COF or Merchant's Guild, I would get these 2 favorite cache points. These favorite caches can spawn on anything, including arenas. So if you're in an arena, just sort of like run around and look for them. They'll drop. They count as a cache open for like lizard caches and other stuff, or like ambush caches. And they'll drop anywhere from 3 to 6 favor tomes, and the favor tomes will give you around 750 favor, which is fantastic, especially early on. It turbocharges your item progression in your item faction, and it's pretty much invaluable. They're really never going to go wrong because you pretty much always want favor. The 2 things you always want in Last Epoch are favor and corruption. So this is a fantastic way to get it. The Tome of Insight, I'd say it's more so a COF thing. Personally, I'm a big fan of taking the 2, but it only has a chance to drop on completing an Echo objective. So if it's like charge a beacon, at the end of charging that, there's a chance to drop. But notably for objectives that are like kill every champion on the map or go and kill this, every time you complete one of those, it doesn't have to like complete. You don't have to complete the echo. You just have to complete objective. Then with the 2-point sale, you have a 10% chance to drop an XP tome, which I think is pretty nice. XP tomes obviously don't scale with any of the modifiers for bonus XP and stuff, but for COF they are going to be adding to the favor you're gaining. And early on, one of the easiest ways to gain power as a player is to increase your level. If you're Merchant's Guild, you can possibly skip the extra point here, but we're going to take the 1 regardless as a travel node. Next, we're going to start blocking things off. So this is a 2-parter. First is going to block off beacons. So you're not going to see beacons. They just won't spawn on your map. But you're also going to get they have chances to contain a small chance, but they can get spiderling packs. And most of the spider packs, and there's some other stuff for like spawning spider packs, mostly in like the Woven Echoes, right? They have a chance to drop Memory Amber when you kill them. So in addition to sort of more pack size on a map and blocking this off, it gives you a shot at more echo. Next, we're going to run up here. This is both a travel node and one of the strongest nodes in the game. So there's imprints. Essentially, they have a chance to like improve your drop rate on stuff. However, this is the only imprint that works when killing enemies in your echoes. It says regular echoes, but it actually does count boss echoes in my experience. And when it says similar items, it means similar items as far as like item type, base type, mods on the item, LP on the item, type of the item. But this is essentially your boss drop unique imprint. So like for here, I have Flames of Midnight with 1 LP. This means that when I kill the Harbinger and the fire thing, it has a much higher chance of dropping Flames of LP with at least 1 LP. Flames of Midnight with at least 1 LP. So this is great, especially if you need multiples of a specific unique, or you're just trying to push to get higher LPs of a unique because you just have higher shot at it. But this is also just a travel node that we're going to be taking. So next we're going to take this. It gives you super beacons. Notably, we did disable beacons, but if you want to take advantage of the super beacons, you can actually go to a cemetery and implant a woven beacon, and that woven beacon will have a 35% chance to sort of be a super beacon, and the super beacons reveal like, it's crazy. They reveal like a 8x8 area. It's huge. So you're essentially always going to be able to spot like a shade or whatever you're looking for when you slot one of those in. So this isn't entirely worthless if you want to slot that in. You could also skip this and then try out the super beacons normally. I don't like beacons on the map normally, and we're trying to condense the pool of echoes that you can hit. So for me, I go for this and then this. We're going to take out glyphs and runes. Glyphs and runes, they're important, but you're going to plenty of them through the maps, just through the dropping, and then later on I'll show you sort of the mid game strat to start farming your runes, because runes are super important for crafting this league. Next, we're coming over here. This is a nice one. It's a travel node, but your loot lizards, when you see them, they can drop exalted items, which is nice. We're top arena keys. No one ever wants those. And then this is another sort of like COF versus Merchant's Guild. Like, Merchant's Guild, maybe you want to turn off experience. COF, you definitely want to turn off gold. And personally, I leave experience on. I'm going to leave experience on just because, I like the experience nodes, even though they don't scale that well. It's just, little favor, little XP, everything goes. Every little bit helps, and luckily there's no XP loss on death. So the closer you get to 100, the closer you get to 100 is great. As soon as I get 100, I'm gonna take a point out here and then put it in here and just lock them off. But yeah, for now that's good. The next 2 points, or the next possible points, if you really hate arenas, they did improve them a lot, but they don't drop any loot aside from prophecies and like the small loot explosion at the end. They're a lot faster. They're decent for XP. But if you really just don't want them, you can block them off here. No worries. And if you're trying to hunt a specific type of either non-boss drop unique, so for example, I had Titan's Art on here for a while, or just a specific like upgrade, like a bone necklace or whatever, you can take this point and drop it in here. So whenever you open caches, including the favorite caches, you have a chance to just drop a bunch of them, which is great. I think the imprint nodes are probably some of the strongest nodes on the tray. All right, so now that we've blocked all of this off, you still might have just a couple of the higher corruption echoes you're hitting. So you're going to want to come over here. This is a travel node, but it's also a really good node that's late game, worth maxing out, just doubling your echo rewards. And you want to get 3 in the woven echo type spawn chance. This will enable you to see pretty much 1 out of 3 echoes on your web are going to be dropping woven echoes, and if those spawn with a tomb, you can actually run the tomb. Any of the rares in there in the tomb have a chance to drop them. At the end of the tomb, the chest in the tomb will drop you additional echoes, and then when you complete the echo, you will get more woven echoes. Between these, you should be able to get all the echoes you need, and the reason I come for this last is this pretty much is going to carry you for most of the earlier ones in far as like getting your initial points, right? As you see, we've only spent 22 points here, which isn't a lot, especially if you're progressing your faction a little, because you get additional points every time. And once we blocked all of this off, this is just going to dramatically increase the amount of woven echo nodes you're going to see. I did experiment with the memory amber nodes. You'd think this would be good because memory amber is like the primary way to increase your woven faction level. However, the memory nodes in the rewards only drop anywhere from like 50 to 80, which is essentially 1 pack of like spider mobs or one what are these? One of the incubated silk things will drop that much. So it's essentially, in my mind, a complete waste to spend your entire echo reward on like something that drops off of 1 pack, especially if you're trying to invest like 3 points or whatever in this. So this is essentially what I would consider the early game tree. You could take this as well if you want, just if you're trying to farm something, right? And if you don't like arenas, you can block it off there. But this is what I consider the early game tree, right? So you get this, you block these off, you get your favorite caches, you block the rest of these off, you come over here, and you get your woven echoes. So by doing this, you should be able to get all the points from these, all the points from these, and all the points from these. And then maybe a couple from here. But generally, you're going to have all of, this is 21 points. And assuming you have at least 2 levels in your Weaver's faction, that's your 23, right? So this is your early thing. The final things are getting out the rest of your high corruption ones out, and some of them can give you additional So, for example, the Majussa fight and then the 10 Harbinger fight give you 2. But notably, Majussa's pretty easy. She doesn't have a phase 3, unlike in the final boss fight in the campaign. But 10 Harbingers in a row it's a little rough. I definitely had to run like a more defensive setup with like Inevitable and Seed in order to sort of bust through that, because you have to do them all in a row, right? And it's they also spawn little ads, like the really annoying void ads that'll just like shoot you across the map with like their headbutt rams, and it's just awful. But in order to like add these drop, you want to make sure you have all this. But so okay, so we've done all of these and then these and these, right? We have our 21 points. Let's say we have a couple levels. Okay, now what are we gonna do? The question is, what are you looking to do as far as your gear? So for me, I'm playing just World Splitter, Erasing Strike Slop. So the most important thing for me is pushing corruption and killing Ouroboros as many times as I can. So in order to do that, I actually came over here and I got the random shade Ouroboros can sometimes ambush you. These nodes are also great. They're just like more champion nodes, right? But I actually had him encounter, I think, 3 times in the echoes as I was still pushing progression. And the first time I killed him, he actually dropped me a like almost perfectly rolled Shattered Change, was what I was looking for. So very happy with that node. It's specifically if you are, I canceled it. Specifically if you are trying to find shade loot. It doesn't improve your corruption or anything. It's essentially just another like champion that shows up in the map. No success with this one, Echoing Legends. And 1 LP isn't really that difficult nowadays with like Nemesises and stuff, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. One thing I would do is, let's say we're down here. Whether you turn off echoes or you want loot lizards, you're gonna progress down here, right, through this. Or if you're merchant skilled, you can come through this way, where you have insanely high gold drops and then chance at piles of gold, and just come through here this way, and start getting woven echoes to just naturally spawn. There's a couple I like. This is probably my favorite. You can confront multiple nemesis. This is pretty much, I think it's like 5 or 6 nemesis in a tower, and it's essentially just you kill one, go to the next, kill one, go to the next, kill one, go to the next. And there's a boss at the top, whatever. And the boss drops a bunch of like the exalted items that get upgraded by harbingers or whatever. But it's great to just slam through nemesises. And the reason I have a bunch of these like random siphons with no LP on them is because you have a pretty high chance of, when you empower an item through the egg and the nemesis, in order to have it drop as a +1 LP. And if it doesn't drop as +1 LP, so sometimes they'll just like add random mods to it, right? So like this has 2 slop mods. This still technically counts as a 2 LP siphon. So if I were to say put it over here, when I killed Shade, I would have a much higher chance of my siphons dropping as 2 LP. But additionally, there's in addition to Nemesis sort of being able to add LP, there's a couple additional ways to sort of use that. First is the turtle. So the turtle, essentially, my rotation has been try and get as many siphons with 1 LP as possible and then throw them all in the turtle. The turtle will re-roll an item with at least 1 LP. The amount of LP it has doesn't matter. It'll essentially roll from scratch. So, if it has a 1 in 7 of getting an LP, it will either increase it or decrease it. But the increase or decrease is based on the odds that a naturally rolled, so like a naturally rolled siphon is, I don't know off the top of my head, it's probably like 1 in 30 or whatever to get 2 LP, whereas it's like 1 to 1 to get 1 LP. So you essentially have a 1 in 30 shot that one of them will increase, right? So it's not going to roll it from scratch and then, oh, you might get 3 LP. It's like, no, it will only go up by 1. So this is a very sort of, if you do it enough, and you can pretty consistently get 2 LP items. The benefit is also if you miss, and it'll just drop it back to 0, and then you can throw it back into the Nemesis, in the Nemesis towers, and then do it all again. The other thing is if you have a one like this that you can't reroll anymore because it has just 2 random mods on it, this one, you can actually throw it into the Gauntlet of Strife, and the Gauntlet of Strife will let you sacrifice it to reroll one of your other siphons with 2 LP on it. Because even though it doesn't have, mods you'd like, it still technically counts as a 2 LP item. So this is a good way of sort of re-rolling your winners until you get the mods you like, and then you can run it through and try to see if you can slam the right things. So that's been sort of like my end game gear farming in order to sort of like get some of the more like 2 LP stuff that we're looking to get. So big fan of going for that. And then over here to this one, right? So you can get for this one, I like to take the the Harbinger. Yeah. So this essentially will just spawn a echo that has the Harbinger on it. You don't have to fight the boss beforehand; it'll just spawn the Harbinger on a much bigger map. And when you fight the Harbinger, it it has a chance to drop the needle, drop the eye, but more importantly, like drop its loot. So and drop Thailand boss loot. So if you're looking for any sort of boss or Harbinger loot, this is a great one to just sort of have, because they're until very late in the Weavers, you can't buy these, so it's better to have them sort of naturally spawn so you don't run out. And so that's great for farming. And then finally, one of the most important things of updating your items is using Rooms of Havoc and Rooms of Redemption. So Rooms of Redemption are essentially just very RNG. If you have a tier 7 exalted, you can use a rune, ideally with a glyph of hope, and it will randomly reroll that exalted into a different mod that could roll on that. If it's a prefix, you can only roll prefixes. If it's suffix, you don't roll suffixes, but it'll just reroll it and use some fortune potential. Root of Havoc is a lot more deterministic, a lot more powerful. Essentially, if you have mods on an item, you need 4 mods, but if it's actually stronger with 3 mod items because you can craft the mod you want as exalted, and then when you use a Root of Havoc, again with a glyph, because it does use fortune potential, it will reshuffle the mods on your item. So you can theoretically have some random tier 7 like suffix, and then you're like, oh, I want tier 7 mana. So you craft tier 1 mana, and then you just start using Runes of Havoc on it. So you can use Runes of Havoc until eventually it hits the tier 1 mana, or you brick it. And then after it hits the tier 1 mana, you use your Rune of Finements, max out your mana roll. Okay, great. Now we have a good Exalted to go through on a legendary. So getting runes is very important. And notably, we did block off the runes as far as rewards, but that's okay because runes drop like hotcakes this season. And additionally, what you want to get here is come down here through Warden's Echo, which actually gives you a chance to get dungeon loot just from normal Echo mobs, which is crazy. And you want to get Fury and Fortune. Now this enrages all your rare enemies, so if you're struggling with your current corruption level or whatever, I wouldn't recommend it, but generally it's it's not that big of a deal. And I've found that especially as a stronger build, the enraged enemies having increased move speed actually improves your clear time, because there's run to, and having that increased move speed is sort of beneficial. But they essentially have a chance to drop a ton of runes and glyphs as if you had like a COF prophecy where killing a rare enemy would drop a bunch of generic runes. So this includes the Runes of Havoc, and all that. It also includes Glyphs of Envy, which is a great way for improving your corruption. Finally, we are at 34, so we're almost done here. I would definitely come over here and get the last one here. This just has a chance for any normal drop uniques, or non-boss uniques and rares have a chance to be dropped whenever you finish an Echo, which is it's maximum chance to drop 50%, pretty high. And then that also stacks with the double Echo reward chance over here if you want to max that out. And then the other thing is getting this here in order to farm your rares. This is specifically like a rare farm. It does work with as far as improving the odds for your champions to sort of drop a pile of uniques, but the main advantage of this is to sort of farm exalts or specific rare items you're looking for, because it has a chance to seal one of the affixes. So, for example, here I have a tier 7 mana, so it has a chance. So this would have a chance to, since I'm looking to just like use these until I get a pair of the Rabaroff gloves. It has a chance to sort of drop a pair of gloves. Unfortunately, not the same base type. It'll drop any pair of gloves, but it has guaranteed to have one of these affixes, one of these four, show up as a sealed affix on that pair of gloves, and then the tier of that sealed affix will roll between one and the tier that the highest tier on this pair. So, for example, if it rolled stun chance as the sealed affix, it would roll between 1 and 4 for the tier. But if it were to roll mana as the sealed affix, it could be anywhere from a tier 1 mana seal to a tier 7 mana seal, which could make for quite a strong pair of gloves, or whatever have you. So definitely stronger on rarer builds. And then I already talked about the shade over here. And I'd say the final thing here is, in order to get access to the last 2 points, you do need to, acquire the Confluence of Oblivion, which you get from either killing, with 2 points in here, you get from either killing a Shade of Ouroboros or completing your tomb. And that's, where is it? Here we go, Confluence of Oblivion. So essentially what this is the minimum cost 100, it'll have 5 little, the little thing that Ouroboros spawns out of. When you click on one, it'll spawn them. You can click multiple, it'll spawn multiple if you just want to AoE them down. It's just an Ouroboros fight. It scales with corruption. They all have drops based on, drops based on the shade and the corruption. It also is a huge, if you're trying to catch up a timeline, it'll give you bonus corruption based in more than your normal corruption. It'll give you bonus corruption on your based on the timeline you have the highest. But in the Confluence, you have a chance to drop the Threshold of Eternity, which is the Uraroth fight. This one does not give you a passive point. However, it does have some extremely powerful drops. So I think that's the big thing I want to say. If you're leveling an alt, a big thing to do is to take 3 points here, guarantee super arenas for every arena, make arenas more likely, increase pack size of arenas, buff up arenas. Try and avoid this if you can, but sometimes you just go through it and take one. It's fine. Super arenas are great for XP and alts, but they don't drop a lot of loot, so there's that. Finally, the last strat for pushing, what you want to do for pushing the last few levels of Weaver is you want to, I think there's probably a billion videos on this, but essentially you want to put in a Lostwood Folly, which will empower all in a one radius. It'll empower every echo in there to have packs of the Weaver's followers. And these are spider mobs, but whenever you kill them, they will drop a bunch of memory amber. You have to walk over and pick it up, but generally it's going to be anywhere from like 40 to 80 memory amber, and a lot. If you have a high density map, they will spawn a lot of them, and you can get upwards of like 2,000 memory amber from one map, just full clearing. So that's why I'd say, some of these other nodes, like the Elder Sap and stuff, are really just not worth it. But so the strat that people are doing essentially is you do Lostwood Folly, you surround it with false temples. On the other side of the false temples, you do another Lostwood Folly. Or the other side of the temples, you put more temples, and then you put a Lostwood Folly in the middle, and then you do more temples around that, and you just keep going and going and going and going, right? And that's because you can buy the false temples for 75 memory, or 750 memory amber, and the Lostwood Follies, I think, are around somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000. So it's very easy to self-sustain this farm strat, and as long as you are, generating and spending memory amber, it's going to improve your faction standing. That's about it. The only other things I wanted to mention, I guess, is if you're Merchant's Guild, it's definitely worth coming over and getting this point. So whenever a nemesis escapes through a portal, it'll drop an exalted weapon with that special upgraded Harbinger base. So those can, be worth a lot. And if you want to spec more into nemesises, you can essentially guarantee a possessed nemesis in any of your tombs and cemeteries, which is pretty good. More nemesises, etc., etc. And then if you want to spec into champions, there's tons of champion nodes on the tray. You can just sort of like look it up. Like champion, right? So we got like champion spawn with loot lizards, double champions drop piles of gold, champions can drop this, champions can drop that, champions drop this, champions drop that. And you can even double up on champions with the exiled mages. So if you go full into exiled mages, you can not guarantee, but like 44%, essentially half of the time, or 2/3 of the time, or I guess 1/3 of the time, however the math works out. You will anytime you open an exalted mage, a champion's going to show up, and that also stacks with the double champion mod down here. And he could show up with a loot lizard. So anytime you open a mage, you could get potentially 2 champions and two loot lizards. So, yeah. So I mean, that's essentially how to progress your tree in the early game. Just get these nodes, lock off these nodes, get these nodes, then you're done. Once you get more points and essentially have filled out your woven echoes, go ahead and beeline towards any of the imprints that you need. Make sure you are imprinting your 2 favorite echoes here, so you get to abuse them more frequently. And then I would definitely recommend getting these until you at least get one of the shade things, because that's 2 points, right? Is that 2 or 1? Yeah, okay, it's 1. So this is an extra point. So essentially spec into this until you get it, and then do it, and then you're done. You can just do it on a 100 corruption. 100 corruption shades are super easy. You just kill them. And then that's an extra point. And then once you have that, if you don't have any interest in doing Uber Everoth, you can just unspec these. But yeah, it's essentially like Nemesis here, Rune Mage here, Champion here, Loot Lizards here, Arena here, and then this is just like more champions, more like rare nodes dropping. If you're really looking for a Weaver's Will item, there's a super strong node here that makes your Weaver's Will have a chance to roll lucky, which is crazy. And yeah, so that's the Weaver tree. That's how I went through it, and I think it's the most efficient way to get your points. And then later on, you just have to do the farming. You just got to farm Memory Amber after, right? So essentially, once I hit 6, I really just stopped caring, because the extra, this is what, like 5 points. It's like 8 points. Doesn't really matter. You just pick what you specialize in and go for there. Ended up being a bit longer, but I'll do timestamps and stuff. Hopefully this was helpful for people at least sort of getting into it, because I know when I sort of started into the tree, I was like, oh, like what's the most efficient way to get more points, right? How do I get my points? How do I move on? Should I just go for like power first? And there's very clear, like, here are your first like 21, 22 points. They should go here. And then once you sort of get your other points, okay, now we have a good bank of echoes, we can unspec, and we can do the rest of this. So, all right, that's it. Take care.